Over the last few months, the UK government has introduced a variety of measures to help support businesses through the coronavirus pandemic. I'd like through this video to run through a number of those schemes and grants that are currently available and relevant to businesses. The first one is known as the Pay-As-You-Grow Loan Scheme. The introduction of the Pay-As-You-Grow Loan Scheme is part of the UK government's second phase package of measures to support organisations during the COVID-19 pandemic. It offers companies and individuals a loan repayment extension and increased flexibility. All loan schemes have been extended with application to lenders open until 30th of November. Prior to that, it was the 4th of November, and approvals are now closing on the 31st of December. The loan scheme includes the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, the Coronavirus Large Business Interruption Loan Scheme, and finally the Bounce Back Loan Scheme. The loan repayment period has now been increased from 6 years initially to 10 years now. Remember, the first year is interest-free and the rest at 2.5% per annum. You can repay the loan early without penalty. So you can now increase your term, if you want to, from 6 years up to 10 years. Businesses will be given the option to make interest-only repayments for a continuous period of up to 6 months. Businesses can do this 3 times over the repayment period. Struggling businesses can also apply for a payment holiday, suspending repayments altogether for up to 6 months. This option is only available after you've made at least 6 repayments and can only be used once. The second scheme I'd like to talk to you about is is what's known as the Job Support Scheme. Now, this has changed quite a few times over the last few weeks. Initially, there was an announcement on the 24th of September where the Chancellor of the Exchequer in his winter economic plans announced the introduction of a job support scheme, known as the JSS, to assist those further impacted by the coronavirus restrictions during the winter. The new scheme is due to come into force on the 1st of November 2020 and is expected to end on the 30th of April 2021 and will replace the coronavirus job retention scheme, which ends on the 31st of October 2020. However, on the 9th of October 2020, the Chancellor announced an expansion to the JSS to provide temporary support to businesses whose premises have been legally required to close as a direct result of coronavirus. This led to further objections from businesses, and in particular those in Tier 2 facing significant reduced demands and with less support from the government than those in Tier 3 areas legally forced to close. As a result of that, the Chancellor announced on the 22nd of October significant further expansion to the Job Support Scheme to provide further support under JSS to businesses that remain open. The government is now calling the scheme the JSS Open and the scheme for closed businesses the JSS Closed. The Chancellor's announcement means that the scheme for businesses that remain open will require less financial input from employers, and employees will be eligible for support while working fewer hours than were initially envisaged when the JSS was announced on the 24th of September. So the JSS Open scheme works as follows. In situations where employers can operate safely but continue to face reduced demand, the Job Support Scheme through JSS Open will give the employers the option of keeping their employees in a job on shorter hours rather than making them redundant. Under the JSS Open scheme, the minimum number of hours employees must work is 20% of their normal hours, and for which employers will obviously have to pay their normal salary on a prorated basis. Initially, it was 33%. And the amount that the employer must contribute in lieu of wages for unworked hours is now 5%, reduced from 33% as previously announced. But this is capped at £125 per month. The government will now contribute 61.67% of pay for hours not worked, up to a cap of £1,541.75 per month. This increases the maximum government payment from £690 £7.92 per month as previously announced. Overall, employees benefiting from JSS Open will receive at least 73% of their normal pay, where their usual monthly wages doesn't exceed £3,125. This is actually more generous than the JSS as originally announced on the 24th of September 2020, but actually less so than the original coronavirus job retention scheme, i.e. the furlough scheme, which initially subsidised up to 80% of wages, up to a maximum of £2,500 per month. Although in the last 2 months, employers have been having to make increased contributions and the subsidy has therefore also reduced. As far as the JSS close scheme is concerned, for those employers who've been legally required to close their premises as a direct result of coronavirus restriction set by one or more of the 4 governments in the UK, the JSS close will provide financial assistance during the period that they are directly affected by those restrictions by supporting the wages cost of employees who've been instructed to cease work in eligible closed premises. Each employee who cannot work due to those restrictions will receive 2/3 of their normal pay, paid by the employer and fully funded by the government up to a maximum of £2,083.33 per month. Employers will not be required to contribute towards wages, but will need to cover employer national insurance and pension contributions. Employees may also be entitled to additional financial support, including universal credit. It is worth noting that the JSS Open is available to any employers with eligible employees with a UK bank account and UK PAYE scheme. But it can only be used by large employers if they meet a financial impact test demonstrating that their income has stayed flat or been adversely affected by coronavirus. Now, a large employer is defined as one with 250 or more employees on their payroll on the 23rd of September 2020. To qualify for JSS Open, they will need to show the required adverse impact by showing their turnover have remained equal or fallen compared to the previous year based on VAT returns. The third scheme I'd like to talk to you about is known as a job retention scheme bonus. For every eligible employee furloughed and claimed for through the coronavirus job retention scheme and kept continuously employed until at least 31st of January 2021, employers will be able to claim the job retention bonus. This represents a one-off bonus payment of £1,000 per eligible employee. Employers do not have to pay this money to their employees, and to be eligible, employees must earn at least £1,560 between the 6th of November 2020 and 5th of February 2021. The employee must have also received earnings in the months of November, December and January, and employees must also not be serving a contractual or statutory notice period on 31st of January 2021. Employers will be able to claim the bonus from the 15th of February until the 31st of March 2021, once they've submitted the PAY information for period up to 5th of April 2021. Employers can still claim the job retention bonus if they claim the same employees through the job support scheme, as long as they meet the eligibility criteria for both. The fourth scheme that's available for businesses, this is one which is available specifically for VAT registered businesses. It's called the new Vat Deferral payment scheme. If a VAT registered business deferred a VAT payment due between 20th of March and 30th of June, these payments would have needed to be paid to HMRC by 31st of March 2021. Businesses can make payment as normal by 31st of March 2021, but they've also got the option to use the new VAT deferral payment scheme to spread these payments over equal installments up to 31st of March 2022 with no interest. The new payment scheme was introduced by the government to give all businesses with deferred VAT payments due in in March to June 2020 the option to spread their payments over the financial year 2021-22. Rather than paying in full at the end of March 2021, businesses will be able to choose to make 11 equal installments over 2021-22. To use this scheme, businesses will need to opt in, but are all eligible. HMRC will put in place the opt-in process in early 2021. The fifth scheme that I'd like to talk to you about is called the cash grants for businesses affected by local measures. On 9th of October 2020, the Chancellor announced an increase to cash grants paid to businesses in England shut by local lockdowns to support them with fixed costs. These grants will be linked to rateable values with up to £3,000 per month payable every 2 weeks compared to up to £1,500 every 3 weeks, which was available previously. The amount of a grant is as follows. Businesses with properties worth £15,000 or less in rateable value can claim £1,300 a month. Businesses with property worth between £15,000 and £51,000 in rateable value can claim £2,000 per month. Larger businesses with properties worth £51,000 or more can claim £3,000 per month. On 22nd of October 2020, the Chancellor further announced approved additional funding to support cash grants of up to £2,100 per month, primarily for businesses in the hospitality, accommodation and leisure sector who may be adversely impacted by the restriction in high alert areas, i.e. Tier 2. These grants will also be available retrospectively for areas who have been already subject to restrictions and come on top of higher levels of additional business support for local authority moving into Tier 3. The amount of grant is as follows. Businesses with properties worth £15,000 or less in rateable value can now claim £934 a month. Businesses with properties worth between £15,000 and £51,000 in rateable value can claim £1,400 per month. And larger businesses with property worth £51,000 or more can claim £2,100 per month. Now, it will be up to local authorities to decide how best to distribute these grants. Eligible businesses to this grant are as follows. Shops, restaurants, cafes, bars and pubs, music venues, assembly and leisure properties such as bingo halls, sport clubs, gyms and spas, hospitality properties such as hotels, guest houses and self-catering accommodation. The last scheme I'd like to talk to you about is the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme. And there's a latest update about this because on the 24th of September, initially, the Chancellor announced the extension of this Self-Employed Income Support Scheme. However, along with the improved support for employees, on the 22nd of October, the Chancellor announced that the third SEIS grant, which is the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme, will now be based on 40% of average trading profit rather than the previously announced 20%, and will be capped at £3,750. There will also be a fourth grant in the new year, but the level of the latter will be kept under review and announced in due course. Businesses temporarily unable to trade due to coronavirus were to be excluded from claiming the third and fourth grant, but will now be eligible. Claimants must have been previously eligible to the first and second grant, although they do not have to have claimed the previous grants, and must declare that they intend to continue to trade and either are currently actively trading but are impacted by reduced demand due to coronavirus, or were previously trading but are temporarily unable to do so due to coronavirus. The scheme has not been extended to businesses that were not eligible to the first and second grant, and information from 2019-20 returns will not be taken into account. The third grant will cover the period from the 1st of November 2020 to the 31st of January 2021, and the fourth grant will cover the period from the 1st of February 2021 to to 30th of April 2021. Both grants are again taxable and also subject to national insurance contributions. I hope that you found this video helpful. Thank you for your attention.